Hello there, Fox and Pheasant members. I apologize for our delay on our October video, but Jason was away, apparently filming The Big Lebowski 2.
I had to grow my hair, so
he walked in my door this morning, and I'm like, or this afternoon, I'm like, what is going on here?
we switched it up.
Yeah, so most likely we're going to talk about some whiskey, and then he'll teach us some economics at some point.
Yeah.
It's
Mr. Rogers' neighborhood.
yeah. Whatever the
rocker
joke,
style.
whatever the joke is. Bourbon Jesus. You're Jewish. That doesn't work.
Oh, but it makes it even funnier.
It's funnier.
Yeah.
So hello there. And welcome to October. Again, apologize for the delay. I know you guys got your pours right at the end of the month, or I even got a couple updates where you might have gotten them like on the 2nd or November or something. We had our second month in a row of some post office shenanigans.
Yeah.
We have had to evolve our shipping process.
Yeah.
Which is more expensive, but it is what it is. So it's the learning. It's the learning curve.
The learning curve of running a business. Yes.
Yeah. So we are excited to share a pour with you today that I'm sure you've seen. I'm sure you may have even had it, but I can tell you it's a pour that in the last 2 years has seen some weird things, because it went from, it's something you always saw, to a limit one price spike, went out of control, to where now all of a sudden it's kind of come back. It's come back down a little bit. It's available again.
Yeah.
Still sometimes a limit one. But it's unique in the market because of just all the things that it checks the boxes for.
It's a $50 bottle that became $75 in a lot of areas.
But it also was you can't get it.
And you couldn't get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it checks all the boxes. It's bottled in bond. It's a 10-year single barrel.
Single barrel.
You know,
bottled in bond 10-year single barrel for
check.
60 to 70 bucks,
yeah.
Right? But again, you got to find it, and then sometimes you can't get more than one, which is a problem when we have to pour for more than so many.
Although
people.
Total Wine usually has it in stock.
They do now,
but I still don't see it in a lot of other areas. Although it is something you can find.
Yeah. So look, you're talking about an old brand. So late 1800s, farmer from Ireland coming over. Comes to America, comes to Kentucky, loves Kentucky, starts to have some whiskeys that he loves, but he has a family recipe, wants to make his own whiskey, but following some of the things that he had learned about some aged in charred oak, that was kind of new to the time at the time. But unlike that, started to follow, I think, in that competitive edge. There's a window of time where super competitive making whiskey, and bottle and bond became a way of really showcasing, I know how to make whiskey. And we just covered it for Fox and Pheasant members. I mean,
or for society members.
Early on with Colonel Taylor.
Correct.
And thank you. And we just poured some bottle and bond for society members in the pour this month too. This is kind of like bottle and bond month.
Yeah.
So we're going to just revisit again. Bottle and bond has certain stipulations. Government regulated, so treasury agents that are bonded have to basically come inspect your warehouse and your barreling for at least 4 years. It is proofed to exactly 100 proof, and it comes from a single season of your grain, and all your bourbon is distilled in the same distillery. So you're not blending mashes and mash bills. You're not. It is truly the the craftsmanship and the artistry of the distillery and the distiller on full display.
And it's bottled under government supervision.
Yeah, well, it's aged in government supervision, right?
Actually, if you look at the label on the McKenna bottle, it actually says it's bottled under government supervision.
Theirs may be. The rule is
correct.
And I'm sure again it's from the barrel, so they're probably there to see the barrel being opened and whatever, because it has to be the 4 years.
Sure.
So they're supervising the juice, probably not the bottling process. But
mean, it's a regulation process that's
Yeah.
important, and you hit it on earlier with the society video, just in regards to, you know, prohibition and different, you know, folks trying to capitalize off of names and products, and, you know,
Trademarks were hardly a thing.
Yeah, and, you know, people were cutting corners, and you know, the juice was not what it was being labeled as, and hence you get, you know, bottled and bond government regulated, because at that point in time the whiskey industry had a lot of power, and we're able to get something like that. I mean, the government, I mean, FDA does a lot of, you know, those products, but there's not too many liquors or beers or anything that's government regulated.
Well, think about it like it's its own version of like USDA Prime, right?
Yeah.
You know, choice versus prime.
It's interesting.
And it doesn't always mean better.
Sure.
It just means it's under
It
the
is what it
watchful
is.
eyes.
Yeah.
It is exactly what you're getting,
Yeah.
right? So, so here we go with Henry McKenna. It's one that I say, just because of checking all the boxes, you should have in your collection. Like, it's good. It's really good.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite.
No.
But it is a 10-year bottled and bond single barrel that, I mean, I don't know of another.
Well, you know, and what's interesting is we did a vid on Eagle Rare a while back, and Eagle Rare is very similar in terms of a 10-year
single barrel, technically.
and it's technically a single barrel, but because of the process of how they bottle it, they can't really tell where the single barrel ends and the next barrel begins.
Yeah.
So there may be one, you know, bottle after every barrel that has a mixture of the two juices, and therefore they don't call it a single barrel. Yet it really is.
But now you have
this is a single barrel, and it's bottled and bond on top of it, which Eagle Rare is not. Eagle Rare is a 90 proof, and it's not a bottled and bond. So, you know, as a whiskey enthusiast, this checks every box.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have a product like that. I will say the price spike was quite incredible. I mean, you're talking about a $20 to $25.
Well, there was a window
spike within 2 years.
There was a window of time where this hit $120.
Oh my gosh! Yeah.
But again, because it has all the things,
Sure.
it became available again, and it brought price back down. But yeah, it went nuts for a while.
Yeah.
But here's the other cool thing: because it's bottled and bond, what that means from season to season, it's its own mash bill growing season for not only the crop, but also then the seasons that it spends in a barrel, and how hot and cold it is, and where it is in the rick house. All that stuff matters.
Yeah.
So this guy was bottled just after Christmas, or just before Christmas. That's 12/22/2010. You know, is when that guy hit the barrel. I said bottle, I meant barrel. That's when that one hit the barrel. This guy was, you know, just almost a year later. This one's at, it tells you the barrel number, it tells you everything, but it's always going to be 50 proof, or 50% alcohol.
For those of you that care about the details of, you know, different offerings, I mean, you know, that's what I like about bottled and bond is you get all the information, you get the data, you get all the information. And so you know what you're getting, you know the seasons that it was produced.
Yep.
You're just getting all of the information. You don't always get that with a lot of the bottles that you purchase probably and drink regularly.
So also,
unique.
I think I mentioned it. I'm sorry to do that, but it's the same thing. It's one of those where privately owned by Henry McKenna for a long time, sold to Seagram's at one point in the 70s or 80s. Then turned around and sold to Heaven Hill. So this is a Heaven Hill brand. And also shares, and whether they conformed or they adapted at Heaven Hill, shares the same mash bill of many other Heaven Hill offerings, which is 75% corn, 13% rye, 12% malted barley. So a heavy corn, product. You're going to get caramel, oak, and a pretty herbaceous kind of nose on that. It smells good though right now, because we just came off of a much younger bottle and bond that had a sweet mash to it that had a different nose for sure.
Yeah. Well, then we followed it with a rye that was also kind of young and
cough syrupy.
It was cough syrupy.
So you get that.
Well, the difference between society pours and fox and pheasant pours is almost like night and day.
It's a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we had mild oak in the last one, right? I have another one for next month that we're going to be tasting here shortly. That I say is like chopped wood because it's like fresh. It's a fresh oak, even though it's an aged whiskey. This I actually had the note on it, and I thought it again the second that it's like a seasoned oak. There's oak, but it almost tastes like it's.
So I think that's a good description. Seasoned oak.
Yeah, versus mild or wet oak or whatever. All those things are different, and because like I know oak sometimes comes across on a lot of notes that we have on whiskey, but there is a difference, and you kind of think about, does it taste like an old library book? Okay, it's kind of like that wet oak, musty, kind of like heavy smell to it. You got fresh chopped wood or fresh wood is like, it's a lot greener. It's got this like herbaceous, sometimes like a nuttiness to it almost even. And then you've got like your seasoned oak, or even sometimes your mild oak, but the seasoned oak just there's some spice to it. There's a little, and that's the rye, right?
Yeah.
12% rye or 13% rye. I've got the rye spice as also a note, and then brown sugar. It's not mapley, and it's not the same kind of vanilla or caramel or leather.
No.
There's a brown sugar, like a natural.
But it's oaky. I mean, it's tasty. I also really like it with a cube. It gets very drinkable with a cube, but I think, both ways, you can't really go wrong. I mean, McKenna's it's a good bottle. Good juice.
I hate to oversimplify things, but I think that's exactly what it is. There's nothing on any side of any spectrum about Henry McKenna.
Yeah.
But it can vary. And what would be cool is if you have multiple bottles, because it takes one bottle off another bottle.
Well, it's a single barrel, so you're going to get, I mean, not every bottle is going to be the same.
But I do feel about every McKenna I've ever had, it's always very balanced.
Yeah.
It doesn't.
Absolutely.
It doesn't like polarize me on anything, on any flavor profile. So I've got a finish being just balanced. Spice. There's
a spice.
Whether you call them baking spices, a little bit of heat, that rye spice, it's there. This is not like one of those velvety, caramelly, desserty, kind of style.
But there's a smooth
tobacco
finish to it too. That even though it's got a little bit of a bite to it, it finishes really smooth.
Well, it's funny you say that, because often when I'm coming up with a finish that is smooth and round without a specific profile is how I come up with leather.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's got a palate that just kind of cleans and finishes, and there's a lot of complicated flavors going on there from that spice, because I get every sip I get. There's a tinge of cinnamon. There's a tinge of clove. There's a little bit of like a white pepper. So you get these spices, but it quickly finishes and doesn't linger.
Yeah.
And that's where I kind of get that leather finish, because it becomes you get that bite and the acidity from it, but it's gone pretty quickly. Yeah. So
it's a good choice. Like Jet said, this is something you want in your collection. You can't go wrong with it. It'll be a crowd pleaser for the most part. And again, it checks every box. So if you're into all the stuff and all the things that define whiskey, this meets almost every single one of those needs. And I think the popularity now of, aged a minimum of 10 years, higher alcohol proof, so the 100 proof, and the fact that it's a single barrel. You just don't find too many of those types of bottles out there.
Yeah.
For that price point.
This is a safe bet from my sense in pouring it for you, because it's like one of those, you can get it, but you should get it. You might not have tried it, but you might not have known what it was. So I wanted to take this opportunity to go like, look, man, it's a unique bottle of a 10-year bottle and bond single barrel that's not out there. There's not a lot of things that could prop up against this to try. So you're going to get that, but strap in, because very, very quickly you're getting November's pour.
Oh man.
And I barely have enough left for us to do our sample.
Yeah.
So your tasting card for next month is the nose and nothing else because we're going to live do the flavors.
Yeah.
But it's bonkers. And I wanted something like this you should have it. Here's what it is. Just go buy a bottle and add it to your collection because you can find it probably and it's affordable, but you might not have had it. The next one is you might not be able to get one. But run out to get one if you can, because and he hasn't even had it or smelled it.
I haven't had it yet, but we did just have another one of our Fox and Pheasant members who we hand delivered one to just text us and was like, I mean, his description was flavor bomb.
Yeah, so
and
it's
that's
awesome.
Usually a pretty good descriptor for good bourbon.
So I'm excited. We're going to turn the page. We're going to go ahead and get ready and swap things out, and we're going to do November's pours right now too, because like I said, those are in boxes, they're ready to go, they're in barrels, they're in bottles, they're waxed and ready to rock. So we turned around last month's loss into a win for November.
That's right.
And getting it back ahead of things. So
enjoy.
Appreciate you guys.
Cheers.
Hope you enjoy the Henry McKenna, and I cannot wait that I know within half an hour I'm going to be sampling what you're getting for November. All right, guys. Talk to you later.